When you're doing any type of production, post production, you kind of have to administrate. And I'm actually going live on my YouTube right now. So I'm going to do the actual radio show, the podcast, and my YouTube content all at once, so long as the battery permits itself or lends itself to be able to do that. So let me see. I'm over here making like I guess you would call this my dolly. Um, I'm making this out of, this is like what you call it. This is like basically, this is one of my booths here. And of course, it's on the balcony. I have a beautiful view. Um, Welcome to my mansion. This is my humble home. And I recorded an album here, sitting where I'm sitting right now. And I'm very appreciative. And I guess that's what we're gonna talk about today, because yesterday was one of those it was one of those moments, right? It was one of those days where I can't really wrap my mind around it. I can't really put my finger on it, but over the last few months, in the last few days, um, I've gone through some severe challenges, emotionally, physically, psychologically, financially, in every possible way that you could think about. And what I've been doing is basically just praying through it, you know. But it's been one hell of a emotional roller coaster. Adjust this mic a little bit. Hopefully, this cooperates with me a little bit. And you know, I've had to make so many tough decisions at the same time. And yesterday was one of those days that I was having a family function, and I went to do some charity work. And I ended up meeting some great new people that wanted to become part of my project. Um, there were many people that more or less um, provided their professionalism, their assistance, and it all started with that humble, um, I guess, breakdown, that humble action of helping somebody else, even when I was probably in need myself. Um, I smoked one of the best cigars ever in my life. It was life changing. You know, I did about 3 interviews yesterday. Where I did the interviews, it was amazing. Like, I decided to make it a standard because it was the first, um, like the first official opportunity for me to share what my story is and what I was trying to do as far as music and technology, and I guess business. You could include business in that. After that, I was definitely tempted by the deceiver. I was able to pull through many things that didn't work out, worked in my advantage, worked in my favor, and I was able to power through, um, spend time with the family. I scheduled myself to turn in an album, but I didn't do it because technically my last album came out really early in the morning yesterday, and the second volume will be out shortly after this. We'll be recording shortly after this, and it's just one of those things that I've had to make so many decisions based on so many different factors, but everything kind of happened at one time, right? So slowly but surely, I've been getting back to the digital stuff. I started little by little creating content. Again, releasing another album, my first album in the Dominican Republic. And it's been very, very symbolic. I have some new birds, which I love birds. I was talking about birds to my beautiful nieces. God bless them. And God bless you guys. You know who you are. And, you know, like this morning, for example, I woke up, I listened to the Collect Call with Dave Mays and Shook Knight, the latest edition. I had listened to a little bit of it, but I didn't really get a chance to finish it. I um, updated myself on the news. I put all the world markets on queue so that I could do my studies. But then, in my office, I have a huge monitor where I can multitask, right? Because I have all my platforms now, and I have a new headset. And I decided, you know what? Let me do something different. Let me slowly. You guys got to be patient with me. Let me introduce my audience to my my world. Little by little. And that starts by welcoming you guys to my beautiful home, or one of my beautiful homes, and just building from there. Just building from there, man. Um, I wanted to create more content. Like I do things like I swim, so like I wanted to introduce that into the content. But this is part of a process. I'm basically getting ready for this worldwide tour. It feels that me and my loved ones have endured um, so many things along this journey, right? And I want to talk a little bit about business. And for today, I want to focus on the hip hop cycle, right? Because yesterday, in one of my interviews, that's pretty much what I was talking about. So let's start with this cyclical. By the way, I have a little bit of ice water, which will help us out. And all my platforms are pretty charged. This one is not fully charged, but it's a different kind of content. So let's start with the first cycle. So why have I been in this realm for this long? Right? Let's start there. Before this cyclical that we're going to talk about, which spans from 2021 to 2024, it's a 3-year cycle. This allowed me to really gauge the upper echelon of music and entertainment, but it goes into a lot of other businesses, right? So, for example, if I was to use that as a measurement, then the last cycle was 2018 to 2021, which would have put us through the pandemic. And if I'm not mistaken, that's pretty accurate. Without me having to mention the artists that were making noise during that time, which if we go back another 3 years, it would be 2015 to 2018. So those are the last three cycles, right? 18, no, 15 to 18 is one, 18 to 21 is two, 21 to 24 is three-year cycles. In the beginning of 2021, there was a technology known as NFTs that hit the forefront of business. In the very first weeks of, I want to say the first quarter, the real life Billionaires Boys Club did more business in those 5 days than some nations do in a decade. Let's go with honorable mentions, and we'll go from least to highest. Number one, Rob Gronkowski becomes the first sports athlete to release an NFT collector series of his trading cards. Magic Johnson secures multiple venture capital deals. So does Alex Rodriguez. Um, but you also have people such as, let's say, a Steve Stout securing a second or third round of funding from Alphabet slash Google for United Masters, which is one of my business partners. Um, the best way that I could describe it is when I think about title, I think about a record player, but like the Technic ones, the modern ones. If you notice on the Technics, it has a light, and the actual plate that plays the long play has grooves, and it shows small, medium, and large circles. This allows the DJ to see the reflection as they're spinning records, right? Well, I thought about the records or the music as a conveyor belt. And all United Masters was at the time, or prevalently still is a conveyor belt of music and content that feeds a machine that loads the music or the content to this turntable or these turntables, right? And the turntable is titled. The actual player is the structure within title. So United Masters as a DSP is digital distribution, obviously. But why is title such a concentration at this point? Because title belongs to Jay Z. Title was a company that was bought in Switzerland for anywhere from 40 to 50 million, give and take. Could be 20, could be 30, we don't know exactly. There's just estimates. There's never been an accurate figure. Now, Jay Z takes over this platform. He's already in Live Nation because that contract was '07 to 17, so right around the first cycle that we're talking about, which would have been 18 to 20, 18 to 21, actually would have been the second cycle because 15 would have been the first. So this is in between the first and second cyclicals of music we've been talking about. Now, why is that a key role? Because Steve Stout used to be the manager for Nas, who's now artist that works for Jay Z, who had one of the biggest hip hop battles known to music. In the end, Jay Z won, undeniably. So the most prevalent figure in this interchange of these billionaires signing these $1 billion deals, you have Jay Z. Why? Because of Jack Dorsey, who is his best friend, one of his mentors. Jack Dorsey places Jay Z in a position of extreme power by making him a board member of Twitter. This is in preparation for the sale that eventually becomes X, that is eventually sold to Elon Musk. But why is that a key factor? Because Jay Z, in one swift move, sells Ace of Spades to Hermes Louis Vuitton. That's 600 million, one deal, and sells title for around the same price. So Jay Z generates $1 billion in one day, in 1 week, where all these figures made these huge multi-billion-dollar deals. The reason why I personally labeled them the billionaires boys club is because, like I said, they did more business in that time frame than uh, most countries do in even a decade. So, long story short, why is this a key factor? The NFT technology is emerging. I personally dealt with NFTs since around 2014, 15. By 16 for sure, I was already hardcore into the technology. Just like with Bitcoin, even though it really hit around '07, '09. Well, between '07 and '09, really 2008 is when it hit the local markets. I was probably already aware of the technology in '06, '07, give and take, because remember at the time it was just like programming forums, right? Before this white paper is released and it goes live, right? So I remember waiting for it to hit the public palette. And I remember riding the wave as, they were trying to get it regulated. Can it be traded? Can it be taken seriously, basically? Because the theory has always been there with technology, right? But we didn't know if, for example, it would be even accepted. I thought it was always going to be an underground thing, even with the NFTs, that it would be like people like me into technology and programming stuff like that. So I'm a nerd, but I'm a cool nerd. I got swagger. I'm from the hood. You know what I mean? Shit is different. So I faced challenges with right. So of course, for me, it provided an amazing monetary system, right, for my businesses, and I never changed my business model, and I thank God that I found the technology. So, as a matter of fact, my podcast started when we started to discuss everything that dealt with Bitcoin. So I had thought about the idea for a while, and I'm a wine aficionado, just like I'm a tobacco aficionado. I love cigars. Um, I'm like Manny Cashman, one of my mentors. Like, just can't do without it, right? And I bought me a bottle of Cloud Break, which became my first sponsor ever for the radio show. And I was facing challenges with my businesses, so I would get my business partners to play golf to kind of release the tension in the business and to build like a brotherhood so we could bond better and stuff like that. And in the process, for my business partners, I would get them Cloud Break because I was sponsored. I would get cases, or I would buy cases. I didn't always have a lot of cases to give away, but I would buy the cases and like, as you know, I'm Jewish, so I'm not on electronics during certain days of the week, mostly the weekends. And I would buy these cases and put them on ice and deliver them to my business partners. Some of them which did work on the weekends. So it was an amazing thing, like for me to show up and as a token of my appreciation, maybe we played a golf game early that day, and then went to church, and then went to go take care of the family and the businesses, and then I show up with a bottle of a champagne or a wine or something like that. Well, one day, and before that happened, right, I drank a bottle of wine or a few cups of wine. I remember at the time I had a MacBook Pro. I had bought two of them by mistake, and they were older. I bought them from this person that rebuilt them, and the same problem I had with the first one, I bought the second one to see if it would fix it, and I had the same issue. If I'm not mistaken, I went through 4 or 5 laptops like that, like super powerful laptops. And what happened at that time is that there were some MacBooks that had the Intel processor, and at first I didn't need them to run Pro Tools, but then I did need them to run Pro Tools. And all my PCs kept crashing, so I knew I had to go to the Pro Tools format. I actually released an album. My first album was released, um, I think, either a little bit prior, maybe a little bit prior to that. But I still kept working on music, so I always needed new equipment. Well, fast forward, why is that important? I remember when I took the first image to promote my radio show and my podcast, because it started as a radio show, right? I had a picture of the Bitcoin symbol, and it was on the screen of my MacBook Pro, which was the huge, monstrous, the professional one, right? Something you would see like on a movie set or on a major studio, right? And the picture for the graphics was on the home screen. I had the Bitcoin logo, and of course, I had the laptop open when I took the picture, and then I had the glass of wine next to it, and it was chilled. It was a beautiful, honey, olive, yellowish tone, which accented the logo of Bitcoin. And when you saw it next to the laptop or the MacBook Pro, it looked very, very nice. And that gave me the courage to record the first article or publish the first article and you know do the first series, and it just evolved. I started talking about a little bit of everything, but especially business, because I actually used it to educate my business partners. Even my employees, which I don't like to use that term. I think it's offensive and it's against my religion. But I made sure that I gave stocks away to all my employees so that they became business partners and we could deal with each other in that upper echelon. So this was a tool for learning and education, but sharing what I was learning as I was doing it. So, started talking about technology, life, retirement, investments, business administration. I started teaching classes. I started doing modules. There were two apps, excuse me, God bless you. There were two apps that I was using for the business because the business was facing so many challenges, right? We were growing as a company, we were scaling. I'm sorry, we were scaling, but things were not developing as well on the personal level. Everybody was not ready for it. Um, a lot of my business partners were married or getting married, and most of them had families or were starting families. So that was a completely different dynamic of when the company started, or the companies, because several companies were developed from there. So, long story short, I'm trying to give you guys some good vision. So, long story short, technology slowly crept up on the forefront of everything that we were trying to do. And the decision was made to incorporate technology into all of the things that we did. Well, why is 21 such a pivotal moment? Well, I became a World Guinness record contender. And by the end of this year, will be a holder. Um, Anytime you mention Jay-Z, you have to mention Dame Dash and even Kareem's Bigsburg. The reason why I measured that those were the cycles was based on an interview that Dame Dash did about 2 days ago. It's on the American New Network on YouTube. Um, the interviewee is Greg G. It's about 54 minutes, 13 seconds of content. And it highlights the rumor mill that Cameron and Mace bought the rights to Reasonable Doubt to the Masters, right? Meaning bought the third remaining of Rockefeller Incorporated, which was a mastermind move by Dame when they sold uh, the other entity, which is Rockefeller Records, right? Same thing, but separated through legalities, right? Well, after this technology is starting to emerge, just like with the beginning of Bitcoin, right? What winds up happening is, hold on, is the fact that now the format changes completely, right? Dame Dash, within 1 or 2 months, 3 months at the most, attempts to sell his portion of Rockefeller Incorporated as an NFT to the highest bidder. Now, what winds up happening is that there's a catalyst. The artist known as Beeple puts together 5,000 paintings that he did over a numerous amount of years and sells the entire NFT to the highest bidder which closes out at $70 million. I'm not sure if it was RM Sotheby's or if it was Christie's, but it taught me about those clearinghouses that I had heard of, but I didn't have a concrete, mental understanding of what these companies were. So Dame Dash, being the mind that he is, and I actually wrote about Dame in my books. Um, he's always been a mentor. There's always been a conflict, but that's not important. It's not a part of this conversation. But he tries to do the same. So Jay Z blocks it. Him and Biggs have these meetings to change the rules of how they can sell parts of this company. And they go to litigation. It takes over a year. The judge finally decides that he's able to sell it, even if it's to pay off the debts owed to Shapiro. Shapiro is the lawyer representing Jay Z in this matter. And this is what the interview basically is about. And it's breaking down the legalities, the technicalities, what happened, etc. So I'm dissecting the interview, right? I'm processing the interview because I know I'm going to create content around it. We're going to talk business. That's why we're here today. And I welcome you guys and I thank you guys for being here. I always wanted my podcast to be conversation style. Right now, I have this beautiful view. There's some construction in the neighborhoods, beautiful palm trees. You hear the birds, you hear the roosters, you hear the people driving by. It's just beautiful, beautiful scenery. And there's beautiful construction here that you see in my home, very Tuscany style in the Caribbean. It's just beautiful. I'm just so humble and thankful every day. I just give God thanks. But long story short, the light bulb already went off for me when people did what he did. I knew that I could now embrace this technology because after dealing with Bitcoin and Ethereum, and that was a huge thing because Ethereum is the baby and Ethereum corrected so many things. And then seeing how many extensions, decentralized platforms, right? DAOs that stem from Ethereum and it being such a stable network, I knew that that was the path, right? Well, I became the first artist to release his entire music catalog online as an NFT. Industry politics tried to give it to other people, but the beauty of the internet is that it does not uh, computate errors. When something's on the blockchain, it's eternal. And we are the Eternals, right? What we're doing is future time traveler shit. Think about it like that. So I embark on this journey to decentralize my music, to fight for independence, to embrace the technology. Now, on my music, everything that I do in music is NFTs. Well, I don't need to talk about the stats on what I accomplished 2021 because the stats are there. So, World Guinness Record, contender for being the first, for doing it the biggest, not a single, not an album. I released the catalog. I released the biggest amount, over 200 million. The sheer amount of records that I put out, 987 songs, 94 albums, 296 collaborations, phenomenal. 2022, 2,600 songs. I said I would never break the record. 2023, 2,348, a little bit higher by some counts, a little bit lower by some counts, but well over 2,003, 400 records. So well over 5,000 in a year and a half time span at that time, right? For 24, I think I have like between 600 and 800 records. I don't know how many albums. I try to count at the end of the year. Even platforms such as BandLab changed so many things. They've used my catalog and used me as a guinea pig because during the process of verification through World's Guinness, everything had to be formatted. So I had to physically go in and count every record and label every record. And what BandLab used to do, this was the first. This should have been my first red flag. At the end of every year, they give artists an award to recognize what they did in the yearly review. So the acclamations for the first year, as amazing as they were, was the only one that I got. So of course, for 2022, when it's the record of my career, right, when it's my peak, I said I'm not touching that record. That record came organically. I didn't set out to do it. It just happened that way. Um, I didn't get the awards. I didn't get the recognition. But not only did they not give them to me, they didn't give them to any artist. Every artist on the platform used to get it. Then they realized that there are people on earth, such as myself, that would use even the most basic tools and do something amazing, right? And they started by removing the download option to my albums. So now you can listen to it, but you didn't have to download the app. So you could bypass that, just click cancel, don't download the app, don't become part of the community. But people could still download the record and take the NFTs with them, right? Okay, cool. Well, they start taking off the download option. And initially, I had to release my albums through the playlist channel on the platform. Now they gave me the option to create an album. At first, it was very buggy, like it was very hard to do that. But eventually, you know, we were we were able to do it. Well, I released so many albums, so many records, EPs, mixtapes, singles. They didn't give me the recognition for 22. I was already in the process of getting everything verified through Guinness, so I already had everything formatted. Like I managed my entire catalog myself. And for 23, they did the same, but now with more limitations. What they introduced was the boost option, right? Just like Instagram and Facebook, they gave you these choices, right, to be able to target a specific market and promote to them organically through the platform. So, in other words, there's a traffic system, right? And for you to bypass that system, you have to pay to play. So, if you're in one market and you want to expand to a bigger market, you got to pay for that. If you want to go to a bigger market, you got to pay for that. So, obviously, me doing music and dealing with the people, I want to I want the music to go all over the world, which costs millions of dollars. So they introduced a subscription membership service. They started introducing like endorsements and letting other companies come in and kind of pool this this network of artists. And meanwhile, I have thousands of records, so I'm just promoting the platform. Now, they did have an early monetization mechanism. I never engaged it for political reasons. One, because I knew that the labels would attack it. With a catalog as big as mine, it's inevitable. It's bound to happen, right? But it also gave me the answers of why some of my peers have so many high listening counts. Remember, at this time, I'm still studying how DSPs work as a general, so not too many things are calling my attention as far as like a red flag, like be careful with this, be careful with that. When I start asking for the data, because I know that that's where the value is. I start calculating how much money they're making off my catalog. Now, I'm not even getting a 1099. I'm not getting anything, right? So I realized the bigger picture that they used me as a study. And based on everything that I did on the platform, it's like I was a beta tester, right? So they would change features based on how I mixed records or released records or labeled records. Like they were studying me the whole time. Remember, this company is making millions of dollars off my IP, right? So when Guinness requests me of these things, I ask for the data. They don't want to give it to me, but they say, "Oh, have Guinness contact us directly. We'll give the data to them." Because it's triangulation. They're trying to reach some type of agreement because if I'm the first, there should be other people to follow suit, right? Try to do some of these things. So that leads me to partnership with OpenSea. In the very beginning, it was the honeymoon phase. That's why I was able to do so much with so little time. Late last year, I not necessarily abandoned the project because technically they're still my business partners, but I partnered up with Rarible, which in the very beginning didn't give me the lane, right, to do what I wanted to do with OpenSea. But when OpenSea dropped the ball, per se, they quickly picked up on it. That spawned the idea of me putting the labels, the major three, against each other. Where if a label wanted to sign me on my company or the intellectual property, they will be competing against each other because I know now that they're all business partners for for Spotify and DSPs like that. So everything is coming together organically, right? I'm seeing Dame Dash going through these lawsuits. I see what they're doing behind the scenes, which I'm not going to go into details because I wrote a book and it's in the book, and it's all public information. You guys can Google it and look into it. Matter of fact, for my alumni, that could be part of your assignment for the day. So give me 1 second. So long story short, um, all these things start to culminate, right? I dig deeper into the politics of not only the industry and business and financing, but of World's Guinness. So now I'm looking for a different avenue. I'm like, okay, first of all, I can put the catalog for sale as NFTs at Christie's or Sotheby's. They both turned me down at first. One of them, which I will not name at this moment, gave me an opportunity to do it again. So I said, okay, that's one option. Option number two is let's go direct to a publishing house like Hypnosis. They were buying everybody's catalog. Okay, we'll explore that. Not only is Hypnosis available, but they have competitors, right, that would love something they pass up on. I focus and I zone in on Live Nation. And Rock Nation doesn't really apply because it's a sub umbrella company, right? But I decide to do the tour and I say, look, they have a monopoly on all the venues, so we're gonna do every venue that they don't own or control. That's how the partnership is spawned between me and Frontier Airlines, right? Which are the sponsors of the tour. So I'm like, great. All right, so now this thing is coming together. The two biggest investment firms known to Earth is BlackRock, Blackstone. I start making attempts to reach out to Kevin Pathrath and Manny Cashman and Patrick Bet David, which are my mentors in real life. And of course, they made the move to Florida just like I did, and they have offices there. And now I'm trying to hammer that away. First, for the publicity play, because I had to bring awareness right to what I was doing. This is before I'm even building networks, and I started to teach at the University of Tampa. So those things don't pan out. I'm still learning how to even approach these deals, right? At the same time, I'm breaking these records as time is progressing. So my catalog is growing. I didn't have a goal to have 5,000 records like people. It just so happened to be that way. So when it did, it provided an opportunity. Now, I had to build a business model, which is simple. The music is available online for free. Everybody can enjoy it. You want a physical copy, something tangible you can put your hands on? I have every medium from digital cassettes, CDs, DVDs, Blu-rays, DVRs, long plays. I got merchandise. I got a clothing line. I got sneakers. I got hats. Anything you want. I got business suits. Doesn't matter. All available directly to me. And I'm not talking about Bandcamp or any other DSP that's like a Shopify or drop shipping or anything like that. Now, if you want to buy the digital NFT, you can only get it from me. And I moved my collection out of OpenSea because they limited my output. Then it didn't turn out financially what they wanted. Then they were begging me to create content. And then they started begging the other creators to create content. Like they were cutting deals like, oh, we'll let you do this, we'll let you do that. Well, that didn't work because I winded up moving from the platform. Not that the original collection is not there, will always be there. And I will always be appreciative that they gave me a chance. But now with Rarible, we're going on a new journey. And Rarible may be the company that goes with me to that journey of the upper echelon, right? So I don't have a problem with that because I'm here to do business. So my mentality is business at all times, right? So now all of those things are kind of culminating. So that becomes the business model. I develop a strategy that I call white envelope pricing. I partner up with two different libraries, which is, I wouldn't say, it's, I think it's peerspace.com and gangster.com, which also join as partners for the tours, including Airbnb and Verbo uh, with Frontier Airlines to do the world tour. I have all the venues that a Live Nation doesn't have. And again, I continue to create NFTs and the music and stuff like that. So now I start teaching about this technology. It grows organically. I don't have to force anything. Now I'm such an expert in the field that I can talk to anybody about it. Yesterday I did 3 interviews, right? Back to back to back, which I don't recommend because it was just awkward. It was by the third one, it was like there was people coming in the interview, sitting down. I'm like, okay, hold up, I gotta eat something, right? I'm diabetic. So to be able to be here in this market and sit down with the best of the best sharks that are very sharp, that are going to uh, attack at every given opportunity. They want to dance, but I can dance very well. This is chess, not checkers, right? And shout out to the Shark Tanks because I was able to connect with a few of the sharks in the tank, and I have the utmost respect. So shout out to Miss Cochran, shout out to Mr. O'Reilly, Mr. Mark Cuban, and of course Laurie and Kevin. But throughout this process, I'm able to culminate and simplify everything. In this interview, every single host asked these same key questions. Well, how does this work? I said, listen, this is a completely different business model. This is not what you're used to. What you see in the industry in the palette is on the surface. I've remained in the music business. So, had I not done that, my business model wouldn't have been sustainable, right? So now we are in this position where Universal, Warner, Sony is no longer a priority. We're willing to hear what they have to say on our terms. Every major label has a term. Every single time that they approach us, the prices go up. We had to do that in order to box them in. Like, you guys want to be a partner, you can be a partner, but you have to uh, reach a decision. And you have to compromise that. One part of my company or the investment is not another part or area of the business. Obviously, if I was here as a mall or a warehouse, I would say everything goes, one price for everything. This is not that kind of situation. Obviously, right now, the focus has shifted and has become centric on BlackRock, Blackstone. Even Hypnosis had an opportunity. There were other companies, which shall remain anonymous, that also expressed interest. There were other people, many, many other people expressed interest. And at the end of the day, it is what it is. I'm sticking to my guns. I know my direction. I know where I've been. Know where I'm going. So, how we reach the culmination is the fact that when Dame Dash speaks about the cycle, it starts in the beginning of 2021. It starts with people. It starts with the NFT technology hitting the forefront. It starts with people diversifying their investments and their portfolios, going into digital assets versus physical assets, And you see the attempt of companies like BlackRock, Blackstone, and other ETFs that are trying to implement this technology. You have the emergence of apps like M1 Finance and Robinhood, and I want to say Webull. All these companies are emerging at the time, so there's a demand there. People are trying to incorporate these things. Mind you, a few days ago, Bitcoin hit 70,000, which is an all-time high, and it's very peculiar how it did it and when it did it. Remember that we are in March, right? This is not necessarily common for the patterns that are, you know, Bitcoin, or what we understand as the Bitcoin phenomenon. Let me see something. See if I can give us a little different. So visuals are important. So I want to give you guys a different set of visuals every once in a while. So all these things are coming together slowly but surely, right? Um, as you can tell, I've reached my Zen mode because now I'm comfortable. Now I want to reach out for my coffee that I've been thinking about this entire time. Give me one quick second. I have some cold water too. I knew it was going to be a long one. Let's check the battery. Okay, we got a few more minutes left. So all these things are coming together. Million things happening in my personal life. I got to be strong. I'm facing so many challenging moments in my life. Yet somehow, some way, everything came together. Somehow, some way, everything culminated, right? And this next album, that's what it's all about. It is paying homage to Akira Toriyama, and the last album before the first volume of the Akira Toriyama series, which is called Liberty Walk, um, was basically like a complete business plan. If you think about it, it was like a complete business plan, but it was based on the negotiation with Warner Brothers, and it's like step by step by step. Like you would never think that. Have a blessed day. Thank you guys so much for staying with us. We'll see you next time. Okay. Dios lo bendiga, primo. Gracias. So it's one of these things, right? So now this is something to learn from because you couldn't have anticipated that this is how it was going to be. You couldn't have foreseen that these changes would come. You couldn't have planned this. None of these things were forced. Me looking into people like Alan Watts has really helped to change my perspective. Even people like Billy Graham, um, not to be confused with Casey Graham, which is one of my business partners. And shout out to you and the Music Money Makeover show on YouTube. Please check it out. Shout out to Wendy Day. Shout out to Brandman Sean and all the do-it-yourself guys. You guys know who you are. Um, you guys are all an inspiration to me, and I greatly appreciate everything you guys bring to the table. Um, I can't think of the gentleman's name off the top of my head, but you guys know who I'm talking about. He's like the number one do-it-yourself guy on YouTube, and he's an artist as well. He has a campaign against Spotify, which I agree with. And I thank God I never put my music on there, DistroKid, none of that bullshit. So, long story short, I'm in a position of privilege and power now, for the simple fact that now all these things have only presented the opportunity to establish something a little bit more powerful or a little bit more solid, something that's more stable, right? And I don't have to force it as far as the culture. I can educate the new generation and let them make their own decisions. And let this be a reference point. So in the future, if it works out, great. And if it doesn't, it's their choice. At least when I started this company, I know there were no handouts given to me. So I appreciate everything. I know that I didn't have those opportunities. Had I had them, I would have done exactly what I'm doing now, is incorporating these new things, right? So what I believe works for the new generation is giving them the choice. Give them the choice to decide, is this technology suffice? Like, does it suffice what I need? Is it sufficient for me to go where I need to go in the future? Do I have a sense of valor to push forward? Do I have the sense of pride to invest in myself? Do I have the honor of ownership or true ownership? Um, Reality is that some will. I don't know what percentage and to what degree. That would teach me a lot about this new generation. But I know that at least, even if it's a 1%, is worth what I'm trying to assess and worth what I'm trying to do. So it put everything in perspective. As you know, you have people that broke through in podcasts such as Joe Button and Nori with the Drink Champs, and Gilly the Kid and Wallow with $1 million worth of game. And you got Matt Hoffa's platform. You got people such as Hassan Campbell. Um, those are like the greats, right? Those are the legends, right? And again, shout out to Hassan Campbell because he broke down so many doors. It's kind of crazy how people have dealt with Hassan, but Hassan is a real one, man. Hassan got a heart, man, and that goes a long way in this industry. So shout out to you, Hassan Campbell. Continue to inspire and educate the people. And nobody's perfect because we swear we want perfection. Ain't nobody perfect out here. So long story short, you know, the Norries, the Joe Bidens, they negotiate these $100 million deals with Spotify, etc. Joe Rogan did like a crazy deal with Spotify, right? Well, last I checked, I think the biggest one was Wallow and Gilly the Kid. They got like 100 million, and Cameron and Mace invested about a quarter of a million into their platform. They signed some type of distribution deal for 30 million, which if they're 50-50 partners, that's 15 million, 15 million. So now they each put up close to 5 million, totaling 10 million, right? So that they could purchase the third, 33 and a third, 33.33% of Rockefeller Inc., which owns the master to Reasonable Doubt. Now, this changes the dynamic completely because basically the industry couldn't block that business move because it was two different entities. And that was the theme that they wanted to control how they did the business, right? So now they took that and invested that into a completely different business model. The deal already went through and the value skyrocketed because now not only can it be sold to the highest bidder, but they know how to take that content, modernize it, and monetize it. And all the nonsense of people being upset, bitter, jealous, and conniving and doing these things behind the scenes, now all those assets are completely protected. And because those assets are protected, business can be conducted without any other lawsuits. So Dame Dash does a very good job explaining it, but you have to have a background on entertainment law and corporations and the way that these things actually work in litigation for you to understand. So I'm just simplifying it for you guys so you guys can have a basic idea. So long story short, at the end of the day, um, all we could do is hold on, let me silence this. All we could do at the end of the day is learn from these things because they are available to us. Like all the information on the internet is free, it's available, it's clear, it's transparent. If you sit down in front of Google and you just start researching all of these topics, you can find so many leaders, educators that have books, courses, and you can dominate these things if it's truly in your heart to learn and understand. If you want to grow to that level, right? And you want to reach this upper echelon, you have to put in the time to educate yourself so that, just like I said in the interview yesterday, you have to deal with these record labels like they're banks. but they're not regular banks. They're loan sharks. But they're not just loan sharks. They're not just giving you a loan. They want the IP. So it's really an auction house. That's their mentality. I don't care if you go to an auction house and you buy a Ferrari, Porsche, Lamborghini, secondhand use or whatever. All the dealers are is a network of people that buy and sell cars. They're all trying to get the best cars for the cheapest price in the best condition to yield the highest profits. So if you understand that, whenever you're bringing a product or service to the market, to an industry, to a field, you have the same mentality. So my mentality is okay, we can be business partners. Some people are not comfortable with a 50-50 partnership. Okay, well, I might be able to negotiate 20-25% of the company. If you want to go as high as 30%, that's going to come with a package. You want to go as high as 35-40%. Great. Now you want to be an investor. That's going to come with a package. But I always like that buffer for like production. I offer the producers like 40% of their publishing, right? So everything is by design, everything is by choice. You can choose to do good business with a moral compass. I'm religious, so I use a spiritual compass. Or you could choose to be conniving and be vindictive and do all these things. But I believe that's only like karma that you're releasing into the world, right? So if you give somebody a bad deal today and you close another major deal 3-4 months down the line, don't be surprised if you get jerked because you jerked somebody 4 or 5 months ago. Don't be surprised if somebody closes the door because you closed the door for somebody. You stopped somebody's family from eating. You stopped a creative from providing health care and a good retirement for the elders in their family. You stopped that family from having an educational structure, a university, a trust fund, or a college tuition fund for a creative's, you know, project. So how can you be upset that okay, you gave Nike a bad deal, and then you tried to close a deal with Louis Vuitton Hermes, and they took 98% of the ownership. You signed on for that as soon as you made that bad deal. So your reputation in business is very important. How you deal with people, how you connect with people, how you actually do business reflects on who you really are at the core. And in this business world, a lot of people hide their true intention and their true emotions. And their prerogative may not always be the best for you. Although you, as an entrepreneur, have to make it the best for your investments, for your business partners, for your colleagues, for your peers. Why? Because long term, that's going to be the key to your success. Why does everybody want to do business with Warren Buffett? After so many years, so many companies, so many investments, so many market changes. Why? His reputation, man of his word. He doesn't like to be controlled. He doesn't control. The companies that he buys still belong to the creators. He owns the stock certificate. He collects the profits at the end of the year. But guess what? He allows those creators to be excellent at what they do. Just like nobody in his office says, you know, paint the walls a certain color or decorate in this type of decor, right? Whenever he's bought a company and turned it around, he did it from the financial side. He did it from the macro side, not the micro side. Notice also how so many investment firms are going for the micro, even BlackRock. That's something that's unheard of. So the way to scale and expand is not to go macro now. Now it's to go micro. It's the small businesses at the forefront of the economy. Now you got companies like BlackRock focusing on that. So what does that do for us? It provides a new avenue because we are a micro business. We're family owned and operated, but because we're in technology, we're at the macro level. So now they understand the dynamic of those two differences and they can adjust. Why? Because they have all the money in the world. Once they created a company like Masterworks, which I learned from Patrick Bet David, and understood that they could take a Mona Lisa and divide it into 10 million NFTs and put those on an ETF where anybody can invest in them. And people are getting these dividend yields that are crushing the stock market like 400%, 4,000%, 400,000%. What better company to bring this new, fresh idea to? You think my concern is to reach out to Rose Guinness, or you think my concern is to reach out to BlackRock? This is clear, very cut clear. There's no question that the target will be something like a BlackRock or a Blackstone. Now, using that as leverage against, the top three majors. Why? Because in this new range of business, there is no other choice. It should only be in that context. You have to pay people what they're worth and more, never less. It may be a small victory at the moment, but long term, it's a huge loss. If you build a reputation for doing bad business and stepping over people's boundaries, right? You're not going to be in business for very long. New technologies will emerge, new talents will emerge, new products, new services. The world changes every day. Change is good. Change is natural. It might rain today, tomorrow the sun comes out. Then there's a hurricane, there's a tropical storm. You have beautiful climate one day, and the next day it could be a mixture of bad climate and good climate. So the same thing happens in life. Your priorities as an entrepreneur, let's say when you're graduating high school or you're graduating college, are going to be different once you have X amount of years in your field or your trade. So all those things come into play. So you got to ask yourself, do you want to build a company that's going to be around 30, 40 years? Because any corporation you work for, you're going to be there 20, 25 years. So do you want a company you could pass down to your kids? If you do, you need to understand that to be successful, you need a team of people, you need a group of people. And you don't want to build a reputation for doing bad business. Let's say in 10 business deals, you might have one or two complaints. I'll give you three. That's 30%. It can't be 80%. It can't be 75%. It cannot be 65%. It can't be 50%. It can't even be 40%. That's crazy. 30 is the limit. You should want to stay between 5 and 10%. Okay, what's between that? 7.2%. Period. In any investment, any trade, any product, any service. So implement that invertedly. How much of your time should you dedicate to your business partners and your colleagues and your peers and your employees? Minimum 7%. Now invert that back again to the top. Can we increase that to 30, 40%? Yes, you can, because you're doing that as liability protection. Out of that 40% time, you only need 7%. So you have an additional 33% that you're educating your peers, your business partners, etc. Right? So you're doing that to protect the propensity of your business to do business the right way by over 30%, so that you don't have a failure rate of 20 to 30%. Now, that's going to be on your papers. You guys need to write a paper about that. And I want you to show your work. I want you to show proof how you did your calculations based on your own businesses, investments, business models, whatever it is that you guys write, right? So this to serve as an example, right? That when you go to these boardroom meetings, when you go on LinkedIn and you reach out to the interns and you slowly build friendships and relationships with people at these companies, you send the emails, you make the phone calls, you schedule the meetings, you take them to Starbucks, you go to the park, you go to the football game with their kids. You understand. Do you guys remember the movie The Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith? You remember the part where he goes with one of the stockholders for, I think it's the 49ers, with his son, and he's taking the time to learn as he's teaching this gentleman who's a prominent figure financially of why to invest with his company, which I think it was Dean Witter at the time. That shows you how you do business, because he cared about that man's family. He cared about the retirement of the gentleman. He cared about the future college of the child. These are all things that they did not have to do necessarily. So it just goes to show you that you can find inspiration anywhere. And whether you implement that or not is totally up to you. And guess who has to deal with that? Because the name of the game is results. Who has to deal with that? You have to deal with that. Did you do good business? There was a segment where when the rumor started, Cameron and Mace are laughing about how they bought the deal or whatever, whatever. And I think Cameron mentioned something about, a lot of these entrepreneurs, or let's say these artists, they're not even really good at making money. They're not good in business. And a vast majority of them are not even really good at music. So that's like a double headlock. You know, it has to be one or the other, right? So my advice for you as an entrepreneur would be to look for versatility in anything that you do. Try to diversify what you're already good at, leverage what you're naturally good at, and then use that to skyrocket or excel anything else that you do. Because if you do good business locally, you're going to do good business nationally. And if you do good business nationally, you're going to do good business internationally. You're going to be on the world spectrum. People are going to want to do business with you. So I don't care if it's a lemonade stand. You make it the best lemonade stand ever known to mankind, right? And from that, a restaurant opportunity opens up. Then a bakery opens up. Then you got a car dealership. Then you got a finance company. And before you know it, all these things are coming together because you did business right the first time, because you did right by your peers and your colleagues and your business partners. I want my business partners to make millions of dollars in profit. If that's not your aim and your goal, then you shouldn't be in business. For that, stay in business by yourself. Do your own thing, have your own rules, exploit yourself if you want to. Long term success is built upon those qualities. This is why it's important to study old school business and find out, why does everybody want to do business with Warren Buffett? Man of his word, very consistent, not with the nonsense. Look what he did when he took over Berkshire Hathaway. He went to the Securities and Exchange Commission and said, "Listen, we're going in the wrong direction, but I'm in charge of the company now. You guys know my integrity. We're going to go in the right direction from this point forward." That's what it's all about. Capitalizing on every opportunity that is presented to you and incorporating what you learn to propel yourself to the future. You can't look in the past and say, "Yo, in 95, I hit the touchdown. I threw the Hail Mary to myself," like Al Bundy did in the Married with Children series. I don't want to hear about your past accomplishments. I want to know about today, but I'm really focused on tomorrow. These companies buy you based on tomorrow's evaluation at today's price. My business model is yesterday's price is not today's price. It doesn't work like that. Inflation is bad enough, I have to keep up with. Then there's innovation and competition rising in the markets every single day. So if you would have to do right by a Google or Alphabet or Microsoft or Apple or Nike, and the list goes on and on and on, why would I accept anything less than that? Why would my peers, business partners, colleagues accept any less than that? What happens when we all say no? I know the value of everything because I understand the value of the penny. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time that we have for today. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to the Venomar Motivation. I'm your host, and that's going to be the title of today's program, The Value of a Penny. So we're going to sign off here on YouTube. I'll continue with my alumni back at the boardroom. But I want to thank you guys for tuning in. And it's not very often that I get to sit down and break down business with you guys, but I promise you I'll make the effort now. Especially, I have a lot of traveling in the next few weeks, so you guys will get to come along with me on the journey. So we got to go overseas. Got a few pit stops. Um, we'll be passing by Japan. I got to go to Europe real quick. Got to go to Canada. But I have a few spots in the United States, so we'll enjoy it together. So thank you guys, and we'll see you on the next one. God bless you all.